He is going to drop the throw. Fires deep along the right sideline for Alec Pierce.
He's got it. Touchdown! Touchdown! Alec Pierce spikes it into the end zone. Touchdown! I-N-D-Y. A 32-yard grab over the shoulder snag.
Good evening, everybody. It is the crew. We are back this Saturday with a nice surprise for everybody with a special guest. We have James Boyd over here, Colts writer from The Athletic. DeMarco's probably got the better introduction for him, but I hope everybody's doing well tonight.
Yeah, so good evening, everybody. We have our special guest on, as Matt has said. Has come a long way, starting out at the University of Illinois and worked his way up there from there. Most recently spent his time as the beat writer for the Indiana Pacers. So our other hometown team here for most of you Indiana Pacers fans, and is currently the staff writer for The Athletic, covering the Indianapolis Colts. So thanks for coming on, James. We appreciate having you on.
Thanks for having me. Obviously, it was cool you reached out. I know it's pretty funny people do that on Twitter, and I'm like, I got to vet it first, but you all seem pretty cool, and it was exciting to join. And obviously, it's pretty slow now, but I'm sure in 2 or 3 weeks we'll be all over the timeline arguing over what we think is best for the direction of the team. So I'm excited to talk to you all about it.
Most definitely. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started going in here for everybody that didn't know what we're going to do tonight. So tonight we're going to be breaking down the most underrated players in history from we're going to go from quarterback all the way down to tight end and defensive back. So there'll be about 5 positions there. And then, James, you can go ahead from there. Just tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so as you all know, I currently cover the Indianapolis Colts. I got my start actually in sports journalism when I was a student at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, down there with the Illini. They were not good when I was there in football or basketball. They were pretty bad. So I guess you become a better writer when you have to continue to find stories where you're covering not teams that aren't good. So I started doing that in college towards my sophomore, junior year. I majored in broadcast journalism, actually. Thought I'll be doing more reporting live and things like that, standing somewhere and telling you what's going on. But that camera was too heavy. So I switched real quick because I was like, I'm too skinny for this. I'm not continuing this. That's a real life fact. I was thinking to myself, I can't carry this around for 20 years. Not going to happen. And I didn't like editing like that much. I figured, just editing, sitting at a desk and using all those things to move video clips around. And if your card gets corrupted, you're out of luck. Like I just didn't, finish my degree out in it, but I went more print. So from there, got my first job in the real world as a high school sports reporter in Northwest Indiana, the Times of Northwest Indiana. We call it the Region. I tell those kids all the time, they changed my life. Covering them is what gave me my reputation, I guess, around the state. Ended up going back to my alma mater to cover them for 6 months as I got a promotion at my first job. And then left there after 6 months in Champaign-Urbana as an adult. Went and covered the Pacers for 9 months. And then after that, came over to the Athletic to cover the Colts. So it was about 2.5 years I was doing high school sports. And then after that, it really took off. I mean, next month will be 1 year at the Athletic. And it's the first time I've had the same job for a full year in like 2 or 3 years. So excited to be somewhere where I don't have to continue to change who I'm in contact with and things like that, or relearn a team, relearn a different, sport. So excited for what's coming year 2 as we get ready for the Anthony Richardson show.
Oh yeah. I heard you had some things to say about Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know the story, I guess I can tell it here. But yeah. We were at the Combine here in Indianapolis, and no disrespect to him, I think he's a great dude, but we were in this media scrum, and everyone was, just asking all these questions that were not really, in my opinion, related to football too much. I think someone asked him what was his nickname he was growing up. He's like, I called myself Cam Jackson because I was – people called me Cam.
Yeah, seen that one.
And so – and that's cool. That's fine. I think that's important to find out, get to know a guy. But I felt like I was kind of one of the few people there who was willing to at least acknowledge that, hey, you weren't Cam Newton or Lamar Jackson in college. You were not a Heisman winner. You weren't a first-team All-American. You're not, you could be a future MVP, but those guys have won MVPs already. So I just asked him. I said, hey, Anthony, what can you bring a team right now versus in the future because some teams view you as a project quarterback. And I don't think he heard anything before project quarterback, especially the part about teams viewing him as that, because I don't know the guy. I don't know what to view you as. And so he had me repeat the question like 4 or 5 times. I think he thought that I wouldn't ask it again, but I did. And he just crushed it. He's like, I don't even know what that means. And I'm like, great talk. And then they go to the next guy, and the other guy asked him, hey, you were a one-year starter at Florida. What are teams saying about your inexperience? And then he just turns from that guy and points to me, and he's like, well, that guy called me a project, so I guess I got room to grow, this and that. And everyone starts laughing, and it's like a little bit tension in there. And so, yeah, it was a bit of an awkward moment, but not something where I was like embarrassed and nothing like that. Because the funny part about journalism being in those settings is, I asked a real question. I felt like that wasn't, this softball, maybe not the nicest question. And if you go back and read everyone's story from that day, they're not using the Cam Jackson quote. They're using the quote that I got where he's saying, I don't know what a project quarterback means and all that type of stuff. So it was pretty funny because people laugh at you for the question, but then use the response in their story. Well, how come you didn't ask it?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I guess to pull it all full circle, when he got drafted, which was hilarious because when I asked him the question, I did not think the coach was going to draft him because the Bears hadn't traded up yet and all that stuff, or traded back yet rather. And so when he got picked, I remember putting out a gift tweet or something, and it was just like, oh my gosh, like this is gonna be so awkward. And so I just owned it when he came here, Indianapolis, first in-person interview. I was like, hey, I'm the guy who called you a project or asked you about being a project quarterback. He's like, hey, I remember. And that was a little funny moment. His entire family was in the room. The media room just started busting out laughing. But I asked a better question at that time around about being, sort of the unknown as far as what he's capable of, but then also knowing that you were not picked because you were great in college. Like there were moments that you were great, but you weren't great overall. And he gave a great answer about, comparing himself to Tom Brady, not in the sense of like being as great as him right now, but the work ethic and trying to get to that level someday. So I actually think it made our relationship a little bit better, and so I'm looking forward to meeting him more and seeing him more on a day-to-day basis come camp time.
He's got that Colts chip on his shoulder, pretty much like Zaire Franklin and Shaq Leonard. That's the way they are.
Shaq is the most intense for sure. Like, oh my God. Shaq was yelling at me in the locker room like 3 weeks into the job last year. So that was pretty intense. But I think in our field, if you're really serious about it, you learn not to take anything personal. And I think if you're going to ask players to give you real responses and stuff, when you write something or say something about them and they give you a real reaction, that's fine. Like I think that's fair game. So I enjoy that stuff. It's just you can't shy away from it. You can't say something crazy and then when they come around you switch up. So I've kept the same energy. I've gotten, I guess, wiser with how I phrase certain questions. I won't use the project word, the P word anymore. But yeah, it was a good time. And Anthony Richardson's a good dude, so no complaints there.
That's awesome.
Sounds like a humbling situation for both parties.
Yeah. I mean, when you, and that's kind of what I was getting at is like, dude, I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how much they might love you because they drafted you. And I'm not rooting against the guy at all. Like, I hope he succeeds because he seems like a great dude, but I have to be a realist, right? Like, they did not draft you. They said this themselves. Ed Dodd, the assistant general manager, said it himself. He was like, I was out on this guy. He didn't play enough. And so they did not draft you because you were a great player in college. They drafted you because they think you can be a great player.
Right.
That's the difference. And so it can go both ways, though, because like Tim Tebow was great in college, but everyone knew he wasn't going to be that great in the pros, right? And it's the opposite for Richardson. Like, you weren't great in college, but with your skill set, what you can bring to the table, you can be potentially, a great quarterback. So I'm excited to document all of it and kind of from the start.
Yeah, that's definitely I like to hear that from your perspective as well, because a lot of the times fans like to sit there, we like to talk our crap and comment and say stuff about players, but it's different when you're sitting in that fire, you sit in front of a player
face to face,
and he calls you back out on your crap, and then you're sitting there like, because you didn't think he was going to say something. Like I just saw that thing where those fans had one of those Twitter rooms up, and they were talking about Kevin Durant sucks. Yep. And KD jumped into their group and started talking, and it went from them just chattering to them just listening to what Kevin Durant had to say. So it gets real. You actually in somebody's face, and I like to hear that response, and you still bring in the same attention and detail to
Energy,
it that
too.
you had from it.
Exactly.
As well, yeah.
Damon just hit it on the head. I think with anything, I think as a man, you got to keep the same energy. There's always a respect level there. Like you can't go completely off the handle, even when you're critical. But I think I've gained respect throughout my career because I haven't been too one way or the other. Like I'm not gonna seek out negativity, but I'm also not gonna, do fluff pieces every week
No
because
BS.
you aren't performing. Right. If you aren't performing,
We are that group that appreciates it.
We're not Colts.com.
exactly. and we joke about that, but man, like if you're the writer for the Colts.com, we would joke with JJ Stefanski last year because after the Minnesota game, he has to write like the pro Colts angle after that game. And so we're looking at him like,
Stuff.
what are you even going to ask? What can you possibly write that's a positive from this game? And
We had a great first half.
We put up over 30 points.
Right, which is what we ended up doing, I think, and focusing on some stuff with teams play or something like that. But that's what I enjoy about being an independent journalist is like I don't have to, sugarcoat it. If you play bad, I can say it. I'm not going to kill you for it, but I'm definitely not going to, hold any punches. Nothing like
just
that.
the fact.
If you play well, you give honest, praise for that. Like when they knocked off Kansas City, and that was something where I had to give them props for that. So, I'm excited for this season because I think there's going to be a lot more of that because there's going to be so much, I think, ups and downs at the quarterback position because of how raw Richardson is whenever he gets in there.
And then just real quick, so you've been covering the Colts since
last season was my first year, so this is my
Last
second
season.
year I'm going into. Yeah, so
Oh, so you must have had
Okay,
fun
so-
writing all the negativity.
yeah,
It was a rough first year, man.
man, dude. The joke
And
that
it's
we
funny-
always have is that Zach Kiefer, Mike Chappell, Stephen Holder, Joel Erickson, Nate Atkins, George Brimmer, all the guys who are in the locker room with me, Kevin Bowen, not locker room, I'm sorry, the media room with me. They all told me how it would go, and this is how the NFL goes, and this is how the rookie season is going to go. You can expect this and that, and then it literally went completely left. And so, I think one of the biggest honors, I guess, or one of the funniest moments is when you got Mike Chappell, who's covered the team since they've been here. I think this is going to be his 40th season.
Wow.
Me saying like, James, you and me, we've both never experienced anything like this, and so that was
It was
pretty
rough.
crazy. But I think because of that. Now, looking at where the team is at the moment, you can expect a lot more stability going forward because they're not going to change, coaches or quarterback or anything like that anytime soon. So, I got thrown in the fire, learned a lot, learned it fast, and now I'm hoping for, at least from that aspect, a smoother season. Like, just let me deal with, like, the on-field stuff, and I prefer that any day.
Maybe a couple wins this year, too.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to
I mean,
lie.
we had a couple
Every team that
last year.
wins is obviously a lot easier than the one that loses. But I think they have it in their heads, like, you just got to see progress. I picked them to win 5 games, 6 at the most. I could maybe see 7, but it's not going to be a playoff team, I don't think.
No
so
way.
you got to
That's
see.
what
I think we're in the
said.
same boat.
Yeah, we've all said it multiple times.
No
We've
way.
Yeah,
been-
I'm glad you said that because, I was going to ask you your opinion on them because I didn't know if you could actually give your idea of what that team will actually look like because we've had that same idea because I don't know if you maybe see me post it or not, but we went through predicting the entire season. And as we are a Colts show, if you can see our comments here, Colts ended up with 10 wins. And I posted around to a bunch of Facebook groups, and they're just sitting there killing. Overall, they fans are gonna have their own idea, but people will try and kill us for the Colts ended up with 10 wins. I'm like, hey, I promise you, every guy that you've seen on this show, we're not expecting that. So if you think we're gonna have 3, 4, 5, 6 wins, then more power to you.
Right,
Because that's what we agree with you.
Being
But
a
10
Colts
wins,
show-
we didn't think so.
being a
Wow.
Colts show, and we included all the viewers in the votes, so we had about 8 to 12 votes
Oh, man.
for every single game of the season, not just Colts.
We got
People
that
were
Tim
voting.
Irsay optimism to start the season.
Yeah,
You guys
exactly.
had-
There was
Yeah.
bias. There was clear bias
Yeah,
going
yeah.
on with Indy, and then with teams like people hating on Tennessee, people not voting for New England.
I still hate Tennessee.
And,
The good news is our fan base is feeling good, all right?
no,
They're
seriously.
optimistic.
I think that you all are in a good spot because you at least have a direction now. Like that was the problem last year and in the years past is you just don't know. And if you didn't have the playoff success, it's like, well, what is all this for? Like, what timeline are we on? And I think this year is going to be very pivotal because you got Richardson, but then you also have a lot of guys who are on different timelines when it comes to like Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, Shaq Leonard. And it's like, okay, what do you do? Because realistically, if Richardson, even if he is your guy, he's not going to be, a Pro Bowler, I don't think, like in year 2. So you would have to imagine that at some point you got to look at moving on from some guys, get some draft capital in return, and building it around what you hope is your franchise quarterback. And I think that he has all the things to be that guy. Now, if he becomes that, it's a whole different story. It can go either way. Potential is a backhanded compliment. Like, it means you could be something, but also means you can't be something. So we'll see.
Would you say that the stability like that you see this season around the team is significantly different than last year, whenever you're reporting?
I would say it has to be, right? Because of the coaching changes. I mean, there was a 3 or 4 week stretch there where, the offensive coordinator is gone, the coach is gone, the QB's getting changed again, and they played 3 different starting quarterbacks, which is insane for an NFL season. And so I think that just by default, it has to be a more stable season. Now, if Shane Steichen is the right guy for the job, is Richardson the right quarterback, I'm not sure. But I feel pretty good about where they're at. And I think Shane Steichen has a chance to prove himself, not only as like a offensive guru, but just an overall head coach and what he could command and what he could demand from his players. He seems very much like literally like football and family. No guys say that as a cliche, but he is truly all of those things. Like, I think that he's going to have the shortest press conferences of any head coach in the league this year because he doesn't put any fluff on it. He just gives you straight answers, or he sidesteps the question because he doesn't want to answer it, doesn't want to address it, which is fine. But
it's the Chris Ballard effect.
And I respect
a lot different than Frank Reich.
It's the Chris Ballard duck.
And people get on Frank Reich, but the thing about it is, and you all know this, if you win, it solves everything. Everything is forgiven. So it's like Nick Sirianni, people can hate his style as he's so outward and emotional and all that. But if they win, nobody cares.
Doesn't
you can
matter.
be super quiet like Bill Belichick, and if you win, nobody cares. But the moment you don't win is when you get critiqued for all the other stuff. So, and he doesn't sound like a guy, Shane Steichen, that is. He doesn't want to be a guy who obviously isn't winning or isn't making progress. So, although I don't think they'll be that good this season, there isn't going to be like some collective agreement to just tank or whatever. Like, no, they're going to compete. I just think like because of being young at quarterback, having a super young cornerback room now without Isaiah Rodgers and Stephon Gilmore and others, you're going to go through some growing pains eventually. And then the league is just weird. Like, they might win some games they're not supposed to, or then they'll lose some games they're supposed to win because that's how the NFL is. I'm still shocked that the Colts beat the Super Bowl champions last year. So if the transitive property works, the Colts were the Super Bowl champion last year. No, I'm joking, but that's the parody of the league. And why I like covering the NFL is because every week, I mean, jokes aside, there is going to be some surprises there for sure throughout the schedule.
Yeah, sometimes your team's built to beat certain teams, and sometimes it's not built to beat certain teams.
Yep.
So I do have a question that I don't know if you can answer.
Uh-oh.
Do you have any inside scoop on Shaq?
No, I don't. If I had, I would have reported it by now. But honestly, don't know much about his status. I saw his Instagram a few days ago. He had his yearly camp in his home state where he was moving around, but you just don't know if he's moving around better. Because he moved around last year, but we all kind of knew, especially watching the film back. And I'm not some film guru. Like, I don't know every single defense and all that type of stuff. But I know when he's not moving like he once did, and he wasn't. So we don't know. Last time we talked to him was April. He said he wasn't doing much running at the time, which obviously is concerning. We'll be able to check in and see if he's available for the start of training camp. If he isn't, then I think that it's something to monitor going forward. But to me, it's not even about him being ready for the start of the season so much as is it at any point in the season. Like, if he comes back in week 8 and that's a better timeline for him or whatever, or after the bye and you're like, man, and all the noises, you aren't playing. But if he comes back and he waited all that time, but he's like back to being himself, then it's worth it. Yeah, but if he's not, I think 100%. This season is a huge one because after this year, going into next year, they could potentially release him and only have an $8 million cap hit versus keeping him and having to pay him, like, I think roughly $50 million left on his deal. So this year is going to be a pivotal one, and it sounds mean to say it, but it's something that the Colts will consider with Shaq's future. But I don't know, man. I just don't know. He's the biggest question mark, even more so I think than Anthony Richardson, because you just don't know how nerve recovery works. Like you almost wish he would have just tore his ACL or something.
Yeah, 100%.
At least there's a formula for coming
Yeah,
back.
with
Yeah, this
nerves
is something
and
you just
bags.
don't know. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
you just don't know. So
we just miss those instincts and that leadership he's got on that defense.
And I will say this, and I've really pushed back a lot of fans who have been criticizing him for not playing. Oh, he's lost the love of the game. Like, nah, that man loves football more than anybody in that building, and it really bothers him when he can't play. So I just hope for his sake he can get back out to doing what he loves. If you don't put your body on the line like he does, you don't make it from where he came from to like give up now because you got money. Like, nah, if that was the case, he would have given up as soon as he signed his rookie deal. So I'm excited for him, and hopefully he can get back to being dominant. Because I haven't seen, like, I've seen it from afar, but I haven't seen like peak Shaq in person and what that's like. Because what I've heard other reporters tell me, like Zach and Holder, they're like, man, dude was like that, during that.
Different.
I mean, if you like the way that they talk about him, you compare his stats to some of the greatest linebackers to play. Is his first few seasons?
And that's what we're.
So,
to your point,
so
DeMarco.
we want him back.
Yeah, I mean, he's still on, if he could get back to being healthy, a Hall of Fame trajectory. Like, that's how good he's been. I mean, he set the franchise record for tackles his rookie season. And the only reason Zaire broke it is because they added an extra game. And the crazy part about that, I think Shaq did it in like 15 games because he missed a game his rookie year or something like that.
Yep. He had an ankle that year.
Yeah, so just crazy production from him. I'm hoping he gets back to that level.
All right, last
And
question.
then,
I'll leave you alone. Last question.
Nah, you good.
Did you have any? Is Ballard really that tight-lipped when it came to drafting Anthony Richardson? Did they give you any indication that Richardson was the guy throughout the entire pre-draft process? Like anybody you talked to?
Yeah,
because they made it sound like if you spoke, you died essentially.
I was really waiting to hear Will Levis's name, and I was gonna cry.
I think that the local media, we were all leaning towards Anthony Richardson. We just couldn't get confirmation because that was something that you just, I have my few sources. I'm trying to work on building better ones, but that's something that just wasn't going to come out at all until it got confirmed. But we were not shocked. Like, none of us in the media room were shocked by it because we felt like, after they evaluated him, after they spoke so highly of him, after they kind of did some of the legwork and getting to know him, that it was a safer pick as far as what they think they can get out of him than a Will Levis. And the biggest thing that I think kind of tipped their hand, even though it didn't really tip it, was, to me personally, I was like, the knock on Will Levis, the biggest one was that he doesn't have that internal clock. So can you teach that is a big thing. Like, and I don't know if you can teach the ability to feel pressure. And to Anthony's credit, Anthony can feel pressure. And like, that's one of the things that if you don't just look at the box score, look at his completion percentage, you look at the actual tape, he has really good pocket presence. He doesn't run from things and things like that. And he has good feel. And so based off that alone is, I think, why the local media was more on the Anthony Richardson train than the national media, because all the national guys were saying Will Levis. And that kind of tells you like which people they're talking to versus who we're talking to, because we're here every day. So, it wasn't a surprise. But what was kind of crazy was seeing Will Levis go to the second round, which validated what the Colts felt like, because every team passed on him at that point. But then you have your owner, Jim Irsay, basically saying, well, had we not gotten Richardson at 3 and had, somebody traded up for him where he was off the board, then we would have gone for Will Levis at 4. And I was like, please don't say that again, because that doesn't even make sense. Because he was like, what?
No, what about that stupid tweet that he put out like right before the
Should
start?
we take another quarterback?
I
mean, no, that's just Jim having fun, Mr. Irsay having fun, because we all know he likes that attention. And honestly, though, I'm gonna say this, and this is real. Like, you might not like his answers, and I know the Jeff Saturday press conference, like some of the answers were off the wall. I was like, this is crazy.
Making sausage.
At least he'll like.
We love his off the wall answers. It's hilarious.
But at least he'll like talk to us, though. You know what I mean? Like, at least he'll engage with his fan base, because there are some owners that you just never hear from. Like the Detroit Lions owner, you're never going to hear from. When I covered the Pacers for a year, Herb Simon talked one time, and it was to closed media, and I wasn't even allowed to go. Even though I had been hired, it was like, I don't trust this guy yet because he's new. Wow. So somebody else from Indy Star, I think it was Greg Doyle. But again, like, at least Irsay will engage and actually answer, questions. Might not like the answers, but I appreciate that he's willing to talk. Sometimes he gets long-winded, and I'm like, oh God, I got to subscribe all
Let's
this.
go, Jim. Yeah.
But, yeah, I appreciate it. I think that you should do that if you're an owner. Like, you should
Sure.
get out there and at least give some reasoning for it. And I'm sure he'll be out there in Westfield in a few weeks to give us his Lombardi speech every year. So
Talking about making some more sausage.
yeah, making sausage and comparing Dallas to MJ and UFOs and whatever else. So it should be fun.
We definitely appreciate you answering all these questions, and we got quite a few fans in here. Real quick, just want to jump in here and say we appreciate everybody coming in for tonight. Just answering Rob Lucio here real quick. My computer stopped loading so slow. He basically says, as long as we get a step on the Jags, we'll be all right in the division. So, Rob, if you would have been here for the prediction, I believe most of us predicted the Colts to lose week 1 to the Jaguars.
I think we got swept. I think we voted a sweep.
Yeah. We voted a sweep. It's just tough. But the Jaguars don't beat us in Indy, just like we don't beat them in Jacksonville. So we very well could. But we just don't see it that way. We think we'll be a little bit behind them. So I wouldn't be thinking too much about trying to lead this division. Just that there. And then Stacy is also coming in here saying hello. We appreciate you for coming in. We're all doing well.
Did you say what's up to the Cruise MVP out there, man? Chad's been in the comments.
I did not. Chad actually welcomed James in. So appreciate you as always, Chad, for coming in. All right.
Sure.
So with that being said, are we ready to kick it off, or did anybody have any more questions for James before we
Actually, yeah.
Oh,
Just one quick one. Being as our theme is underrated players this year, with your insider perspective, James, who are we not talking about enough? Who are we missing that you think could have a breakout year this year or really show something that we haven't seen from them?
I think not even a sleeper. I think it's Jelani Woods in regard to the Colts.
Yeah,
We've all said that. We're on that page.
I think it's Jelani Woods. But if I had to pick another one seriously as a sleeper, because I think Jelani Woods is a pretty simple one, given his skill set, his size, his speed, what Shane Steichen does with tight ends. I'll go Dallas Flowers.
Okay.
I love his confidence. I think because of his path, which I wrote about, you all can read it on The Athletic. It came out last year, right before the season started. He went to 4 different schools, none of them at the Division I level. Played Division I. Played actual college basketball, not Division I, but college basketball before he played college football, and it was kind of a unique path for him to get to the Colts, being an undrafted guy. But he's made a few plays with his opportunities. He's a very, very athletic dude. And he's still relatively new to football because he was a 2-sport athlete for so long. And so I think he's somebody who talks the talk, has walked the walk, given his limited opportunities. And I think that it wouldn't be crazy if he was starting week 1 on the outside next to Kenny Moore and let's just say Julius Brents, because I expect him to potentially be a starter as well, because you don't draft a guy in the second round at cornerback and then not think that he's going to be a starter capable of being on the outside. So I think that Dallas Flowers has a legitimate chance to start and be an impact player, sort of kind of how we saw with like Rodney Thomas last year, where he just came out of nowhere. I think that Dallas Flowers could be a similar player because of the ball skills, the athleticism, and then just the all-out confidence. Like, that dude believes in himself to the nth degree, and it's cool to be around, because I'm like, he made me feel like I'm the best player.
Inspired.
Is confident as all get out, and easy guy to root for too, because he's really humble.
Awesome, man. Looking forward to it.
Appreciate the question, Trev. Zach, I called it.
That's funny. Both names.
Yeah, I'm not high on Dallas, but hopefully I'm wrong. I mean,
also as a kick returner too, because of Isaiah Rodgers no longer being here, I'll have more opportunities with that, I would assume, as well. So he's gonna have his chances, and that's the best part about this with that cornerback room, is you really don't have an excuse if you don't get a chance to play more, because you're gonna have plenty of opportunities, and now it's all about, can you just seize that opportunity?
Yep. Gotta come in ready. Gus Bradley's gonna look for who's ready with that experience in that room.
Yep.
Hey, Matt's mom, Stacy. I think I'm familiar with the Anvil Show, but not completely. I think that's another Colts podcast. If I got you right,
I honestly don't think I've ever even heard of it.
Shout out to him.
Shout out to him, but I don't think I've heard of him.
All right. Well, with that being said, let's get to it. The most underrated players.
We're gonna start with quarterback.
From 2001 and up. All right.
Who wants to go first?
I will because it's my segment. I came up with it.
He didn't want to
As you
hear any of
should.
our people be one of his people
Nope.
first.
No.
Yeah.
Zach.
All right. All right.
Go ahead.
So
QB.
if it wasn't for the Colts, I'd probably end up being a Jets fan because this guy growing up was my
he took my guy.
absolute
He took my guy.
favorite quarterback. Chad Pennington is, I feel, vastly underrated. Two-time comeback player of the year, 06-08. Two-time passing completion percentage leader, 02-08. Played 11 years in the league. Vastly underrated, in my opinion. Definitely underappreciated. But Chad Pennington's my guy. One of the few jerseys that's not Colts related that I would love to own.
I'm also keeping an eye on his son. I believe his son is currently at Marshall now.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He's slated to be a really good guy. Marshall was actually not bad last year. Stephon Gilmore, little brother, plays for them as well.
Yeah, I think I messaged you guys a few weeks ago saying that was my hot take. His son was going to be like the first overall pick. I think it was like 2026 or something like that, or 2027. I can't remember.
I could see it.
But he's there now, so it might be 2025. Might be his year.
Maybe. I can't remember what year he graduates or he enters the draft, but yeah.
For sure. All right, Zach starting it off hot.
I'll just go because I'm next on the screens here. I don't know if he fits underrated necessarily. I put Drew Brees as my number one because he's underrated in the all-time conversation. He never gets put in there. He never gets brought up as one of the greatest when his numbers back up that he is. And as an undersized guy too, just the stuff he did for the 2 decades is incredible, unbelievable. So yeah, Drew Brees would be my number one pick for all-time underrated quarterback.
You know what? I'm actually not mad at that because they compare every short quarterback to Drew Brees, and I'm like, wait a second, only one of him.
Yeah, just him.
They're like, well, yeah, Drew Brees did it. Well, yeah, that's Drew Brees. That's Drew Brees. So I agree. His accuracy was insane. Really good dude. And I mean, up until that last year, I mean, he could just put up, it felt like 5,000 yards with ease.
Like it was nothing. And I think the biggest slide on him has always been he never won an MVP. But if you go back and look through his career, he was number 2 or number 3 every freaking year. And he always got beat out by someone having a career year. So that's why
he got beat out by Peyton Manning and Tom Brady a lot.
Right. Yeah. Which I mean, he's right there with him, competing with him. So that's why to me, all-time underrated. Doesn't get the love he deserves, man.
For sure. Damon, who you got?
Zach totally took my guy. But I did have a backup. I did have a backup just in case. But shout out to Chad Pennington. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, they tore up the Colts in the playoffs one year, right?
He put that 41-0. 41-0 ass whipping on the Colts, man.
Out.
Zach star.
I was like a kid. I was tore up.
I'm gonna have to go with the poor man's Kurt Warner here, Jake Delhomme from Carolina.
That's a good one too.
UL legend.
Man, I used to go
UL legend. He was a championship NFL Europa champion, right? Yeah. And then comes over to the NFL and has a pretty good career with the Panthers, leading them to the Super Bowl, which the refs purposely had them lose against the Patriots. But he overall very underrated quarterback. I felt like of the 2000s that often gets overlooked as well.
I like that a lot, man.
Who was that, Damon?
Jake Delhomme.
Jake Delhomme.
He's a legend down here in Lafayette, man. I mean, everyone freaking loves the guy.
That's
I'm gonna. This is gonna be weird. I'm going Mark Brunell, and
lefty, right?
Yeah,
Lefty.
and I like Mark Brunell because
big time.
To be fair, he was the last person to be consistent with the Jaguars. I mean, it was all the way back in the 90s. But they went to the NFC or the AFC Championship game in '96, and he played freaking till 2011 from 93. Bro, I was 3 years old when this man started playing. So I don't know, just Mark Brunell, man. I've always had a liking to him.
All right, James, who you got?
Man, Steve McNair is probably my pick.
Aaron McNair.
Can't go wrong with him.
It was it wasn't the sustained greatness over a decade, but I mean the man was a co-MVP next to Peyton Manning when Peyton Manning was Peyton Manning. And so I think that also because of how the game is played now, he was sort of one of those precursors to the dual threat guys, big body dude, great athlete, and someone who, didn't come from some powerhouse school and all of that. So I kind of honestly miss, I feel like, some of that when it comes to college athletics now, because a lot of the quarterbacks and a lot of top players come from the bigger programs. And so I thought that he was someone who, had a really cool impact on the league and sort of gave us a preview that maybe we didn't know was coming of how it would look now. Like, I was on a different show earlier today and they were asking me, do you think we're able to go back to pocket passers? No. I think that it's going to be the athletic, dynamic guys. Even if you're not super athletic, if you're just a Joe Burrow where you can at least run for a first down, that's who we're going to look at more. But, yeah, man, I look at some of his highlights sometimes on YouTube, and I'm like, this dude was insane, man. So I like him as my underrated quarterback of all time.
All right. And then there's just me left real quick here. Stacey was saying y'all going to training camp. I believe Zach will be there. Obviously, James will be there. Don't know if any of us else will. I'm all the way out on the West Coast.
I'll keep y'all updated, man. I got you.
All right. And then for mines, I'm also with Trev here. I'm going Drew Brees, man. Drew Brees, I think, to me, was just the most underrated. The reason I started laughing when you said it, Trev, is because Trev loves his Louisiana guys. He loves his guys. That's why I started laughing. Yeah. You could have. I remember that one time he said "we" when we were talking.
I can't. I got in trouble.
I'll never forget it. But no, man. Drew Brees, I think he was legit, just like Trev said, all the times that he was up there 1, 2, or 3 for MVP. I mean, the guy practically, after I want to say about the 2007 or 8 season, the guy practically lived through 5,000-yard seasons. Just never gets enough credit when you hear top-tier quarterbacks' names. I know they definitely missed out on a lot of times they should have went to championships and whatnot, but I think Drew Brees is just so underrated. And so that was mine as well.
It's funny because I probably would have went Drew Brees, but I was thinking extremely underrated.
Yeah.
So,
that's what I mean. I don't know if he fits here, but
like he fits because he I don't know how many years that man should have won MVP. In my opinion, he should have won it more than Aaron Rodgers did, but we'll keep that
agreed
here. But yeah, I just didn't go him because to me he's a Hall of Famer. So,
dude, and
that's really not going to put him as an underrated, but I'll
absolutely
take it. It counts because he didn't win that in that awards he should have.
Honorable mention that I'm surprised nobody said. I thought you might have, Matt, but Donovan McNabb, dude.
Yeah.
One of the all-time greats that, again, doesn't really get brought up. I mean, I say all-time
great,
but like,
I'm actually going a different position from that same roster.
Okay. Not mad at it. I wanted to throw McNabb out there.
I was going to say McNabb wasn't
because I'm from there. So I was trying to avoid that.
I was going to say McNabb, the reason he isn't considered underrated is because he was so scrutinized. It's like almost his entire career.
He had a sack roster. He had a sack roster. He played with T.O. He had probably one of the top defenses of that time. He had 2 running backs that are, to me, should be on this underrated list, and I'm only going to name one of them. But, yeah, Donovan McNabb also choked in the Super Bowl in a game he shouldn't have even played, to be honest.
But
fun to watch. Zach, who you got at running back?
Corey Dillon of the 1990 Bungles. I mean, like
massive human.
Back when the Bungles were trash, Corey Dillon is one of 5 running backs to have 11,000 yards and still not put in the Hall of Fame. One of the other 4 are Steven Jackson, Frank Gore, Fred Taylor, and
you just made me think of Steven Jackson and made me go, "Oh my God!" Question my pick.
Right. But yeah, Corey Dillon's my guy. He's kind of been in the news lately because he called the Cincinnati Bengals Ring of Honor system trash. That. So Corey Dillon,
help him get in there. By the way.
All right, Trev, who you got?
I went Matt Forte. I don't remember if he ever made a Pro Bowl or not, but he was always up there during the 2000s into the 2010s. I mean, dude was a dog. He always had highlights, breaking people's ankles. Like, he was so fun to watch. So, yeah, Matt Forte is my pick there.
That's a good one.
2-time Pro Bowler, just so you know.
Was he?
All right, Damon, who you got?
I kind of said his name, so I'm going to go a different direction here. But Fred Taylor, to me, is the best running back to not be in the Hall of Fame. But I'm going to go the person who held – the St. Louis Rams together for 12 years, Steven Jackson. You want to talk about a man that literally willed a team to win? You got it. So Steven Jackson for me.
Dude was nasty in Madden too.
Yeah. Stiff arm.
He was so,
So-
hard to tackle. Dudes couldn't
couldn't-
tackle him in
couldn't
his
tackle
prime. It was insane.
So I'm gonna go with Brian Westbrook out of
Dual
Philly
purpose
here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this man, I remember watching him, back in the day when you didn't have like all these opportunities to watch different games. And instead of being able to watch the Colts, I got stuck watching Philly every damn Sunday. Just watching Brian Westbrook, two-time Pro Bowler. He was a first-team All-Pro in 2007. I absolutely loved him. I thought he kept that team afloat. But with an honorable shout-out to Deuce Staley. I don't think there's anything louder I've ever heard come out of Philly except for Deuce.
Deuce.
Yeah.
Deuce with the juice, baby.
Hey, I ain't gonna lie. Byron Westbrook was my favorite running back to use through like Madden 2006 and 2008.
Oh.
Was my favorite running back to use.
Hey, how about NFL Street? NFL Street. That
Yeah.
that was a
Yeah.
Catch
dog.
off the wall.
You go crazy wall stuff. Yeah. Deuce
All
McAllister
right,
too.
James. Who you got?
I'm gonna go with Sean Alexander, and I say this.
That's another good one.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Okay,
Like,
5.
but he's got 100 rushing touchdowns in his career, 12 receiving. So he's got 112 touchdowns in his career. He's not a Hall of Famer. He's not in the Hall of Fame. Like people think that, but he's really not in there. And so I think that's insane.
What are we doing?
Hey, isn't he a league MVP?
Like,
He was.
yeah, he's the league MVP
Yeah.
as a running back.
Got Madden covered.
Pro, but he's only a 3-time Pro Bowler. He's a 2-time rushing touchdowns leader. Like, I don't see how anyone outside of a quarterback position can score 100 touchdowns
Yeah.
and not be in the Hall of Fame. Like, that's
He was the
crazy.
reason Seattle made it to a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
The reason.
exactly.
The
Get this
reason.
man a jacket, bro.
Yeah, I just feel like that's so
insane.
weird to me. And then he doesn't have any like behavioral stuff off the field that would be like, okay, I can see why they voted against him. But I get that the NFL is harder to get into the Hall of Fame than like the Basketball Hall of Fame, which lets everybody in. But
Yeah.
a guy like Sean Alexander should be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
I think that he's
Absolutely.
arguably the most underrated running back of all time, considering how high his highs were and the sustained longevity of it.
Yeah, I actually like that one. I think that might be number one, to be completely honest.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you almost never hear the guy's name, and he's
He
one of the
also
greatest.
another one of those University of Alabama running backs right there.
Yeah.
Another one that went to Bama. It's crazy to think about.
Stacked.
So I'm also going to name another running back who should be in the Hall of Fame. We actually just had this conversation the other day where some fan was talking stupid to Matt, but it's Fred Taylor. Fred Taylor, one of the
Monster,
most underrated running backs ever. I'm talking about this guy in his prime was just crazy. I remember the games that we used to have against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Fred Taylor was one of those players that I hate playing against, like Aaron Foster before he started having injuries. I think Fred Taylor was crazy. You look at his stats of his time, maybe not now, but of his time, they were literally elite, top tier. I think Fred Taylor is one of the most underrated of all time running backs.
Solid dude too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love listening to him on the Pivot podcast
Yeah,
on
he's a
RC.
real one. Mhm.
Yeah. All right. No, Zach, it's on you at wide receiver.
Is it? I got your boy Donald Driver.
He was one of mine too.
Mm,
I had him.
Oh, I had so many. It's too many wide receivers.
There's
I
too
was
many.
stretching my eyes out for this one.
I picked Donald
Driver.
Driver because he had a 14-year career.
Yeah.
He has 10,000 receiving yards. That's insane. And he stayed in Green Bay his entire career. So that's really why I put him on my list because, I mean, you don't talk about the guy like at all, but what he did, in my opinion, vastly underrated.
I almost took Sterling. I
Ooh.
almost took Sterling too. There was a lot of receivers, man. But I think Donald Driver's a good one. I had him up there on mine as well. Trev, who you got?
Yeah, I went Andre Johnson because we had to play him for years, and I hated playing him. But that 1 year that he was a Colt and like didn't really do anything was still cool because I was like, hey, that guy's here, you know. But I love watching Andre Johnson play. I think he doesn't get mentioned enough because he didn't really get the chance to play in those bigger games or really win. But man, he would just drop 150 yards on you like it was nothing. Like
200
dude
at
was a
times.
monster. Yeah, dude was an absolute monster.
You know,
And, you can't help but wonder, like, if he would have had a better quarterback or a better team or, like, just been in a better situation, he would have been one of those all-time guys that we talk about.
Yeah.
you want to know something real quick? The fact that you named him, I just seen it the other day on Pick Six where they do these posts where they blank out the player and just show the stats. So the fact that you just named Andre Johnson was crazy to me because they showed his stats. compared to Anquan Bolden's, and Anquan Bolden's completely killed Andre Johnson's, and I would have never thought.
I had him in here too. He was actually my number 2 pick. I had Driver, Bolden, and Johnson, but I got to go Johnson. One of my
I just thought that was crazy. But go ahead, Damon.
I'm going to go not the superstar route because I feel like that's a little easy. So there's 2 guys I want to think of, but one of them I think that would be great in this era is Brandon Lloyd. You want to talk about somebody that was making crazy one-hearted catches, one-on-one, crazy route concepts, Brandon Lloyd, and then honorable mention, Amani Toomer. Loved him.
Toomer, that was my dude.
Good one too. Yeah.
Loved him in New York. So I don't want to go the superstar route. I feel like it's too easy. Like wide receivers, there's so many good ones even today. But I think Brandon Lloyd was one of those ones that in today's era would be an absolute monster.
All right. Where you going, Matt?
I'm going Derek Mason out of Tennessee.
Ooh. I like that pick a lot, actually.
You never hear his name.
Never. I remember when we talked about this, I had to actually Google his name. I was like, who was that dude from Tennessee that torched everybody? And I just couldn't remember it.
He gave everybody work.
Everybody, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. For some reason, this division, we've got a lot of hidden talent, like a lot of hidden players that should be talking about more.
I mean, because everybody calls it the trash South, so it's just we just don't get looks at all.
But like I said, from 2000 to 2010, we weren't trash.
No, we were not.
The division was good.
Yeah, for sure. James, who you going with?
I got to go Anquan Bolden. I just feel like not because of really the complete seasons. Like he had a lot of seasons, played really well, but it was the moments too. Like he was a big game receiver.
Yeah.
Obviously, he was a vital part of the Cardinals when they made their run, helped the Ravens get over the hump and win the Super Bowl later in his career. And at that time, I thought like he would kind of taper off, but again, he wasn't putting up the volume numbers, but it was like big game, big moment. You could just throw it in his vicinity, and he would just somehow come down with it.
Yeah.
I never say it out loud, but in my head, I always call him the Big Reggie Wayne.
Yeah,
That's how I always felt about him.
It's a fair, yeah.
He was the stick mover.
That dude, I mean, yeah, but it's like like the strongest hands ever. Always made you feel him on the outside, and so he's somebody that I thought was very underrated throughout his career, and someone who could go anywhere and help that team win. So that's my pick for sure.
For sure. So mine's just like I said, man. I was scratching my eyes out trying to sit here and pick and choose because obviously being a Colts podcast, I can have my bias and say who, because I think obviously if you're a Colts anything, you're probably underrated. So I could have easily chose Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison. I think both were very underrated. But I went with Larry Fitzgerald. I think Larry Fitzgerald is where he ranks on all of his stats and everything. I just think he is by far underrated more than anybody. You never hear his name. You always hear Randy Moss. You always hear T.O. You always hear Jerry Rice. You even hear an Antonio Brown before him, a Julio Jones. Larry Fitzgerald leads in almost every statistical category ever. I want to say he played like 18 years, still ain't even done, and dude just doesn't get mentioned. I absolutely
to be fair, 8 years ago, his name was the only name you heard. So I will be fair. I mean,
yeah, that's true. Because remember that Super Bowl run they went on? It was like him putting the paper on his back and just like, I mean, outside of the I'm blanking on the name, like the crazy throw in the back of the end zone, the tiptoe thing.
Yeah,
he would have been MVP of the Super Bowl as a wide receiver.
Yeah, I'll say this: I graduated high school in 2009, and all throughout high school, it was always Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah, and the fact that he don't drop nothing. I was like, God, this dude he's caught everything, every cold. I mean, my God, dude, like this dude does not drop stuff. Like to go an entire season and have like one drop and then go multiple seasons without any drops is crazy to me.
Yeah,
he got more tackles than drops.
Like that's crazy,
dude.
That's insane.
That's insane.
Insane. Yeah, my honorable mention was Isaac Bruce there. It was
That's a good one.
It was
Mr. Consistent.
Yep.
It was so hard to decide. But
you could even stay over there and go Torrey Holt.
Yeah, I thought about him as well. It was just so many receivers. There's just so many receivers. Zach, who you going with at tight end?
I got Heath Miller.
My guy. Okay.
I got Heath Miller at tight end.
That's big time underrated. Big time.
2-time Pro Bowler, 2-time Super Bowl champion in 2012. He was the first tight end, and I do believe since like Antonio Gates to get 100 targets in a season. So I mean,
want to say he had like damn near 50 touchdowns too, or something like that.
Yeah,
He
like
had
for
a
a
ton from
career.
Big Ben.
Yeah, he had a ton of them. But in my opinion, like during that whole era, like Heath Miller essentially was Big Ben's thumb. I mean, anytime he needed to play, they went to Heath. I mean, and I hate the Steelers, but like, dude's vastly underrated.
For sure. Trev, who you going with?
Yeah, I went Ben Watson. I believe he had a 15-year career. He was always just super consistent, always a red zone monster, both for the Patriots and the Saints. I think he retired in New Orleans, if I remember right. But he was like, he never jumped out at you, but like, dude would have like 80 yards every week, touchdown every week. Like, he was just, again, Mr. Consistent is what you want at the tight end. And I just think he doesn't get brought up enough as one of those guys that was just so instrumental for those teams.
I like that one. Who you going with, Damon?
I'm gonna go Owen Daniels here, Houston
Nice.
Texans.
Okay.
One of the few people with what's his name, Shane Rosenfels. They used to put any sort of dent when we played him, but he went to Denver, had a pretty good season too with Peyton towards the end of his career. But when I think about a really underrated tight end in 2000s, he comes to mind for sure.
You know who comes to my mind? This is going to be wild.
Who you got, Matt?
And it's going to be hard to justify. Aaron Hernandez.
Oh,
Homie
God.
killed somebody, dog.
I don't give a shit.
Whoa, calm down, bro. He's still one of my guys, Zach.
No, that's serious.
On the field, that man was
A straight
something else.
shooter.
And it was shut up. But to be fair, if Aaron Hernandez never had that whole thing happen, we would not
You
have
would have never heard of Gronk.
Exactly. Aaron Hernandez was that dude on the field.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. I'll never forget that post that one dude put up from the Titans when he said he posted and said, I tackled him or whatever, and Aaron Hernandez said, I'll kill you. And little did I know he meant that shit.
That shit. He was not playing.
Oh God, man, that was a rough one. But James, who you going with? Who you got?
Jeremy Shockey.
I should have picked him. Damn it.
Yeah, that's my guy. I used to go crazy with him in Madden. He was
Oh,
first
yeah.
small pro as a rookie.
Oh
by the way.
yeah.
Like, he was really good, very consistent, obviously pivotal in Super Bowl win. And so he was somebody that I thought just you could count on week in, week out. Didn't have the craziest numbers, but again, another big game player. I felt like that would make an impact or make a play that forced you to really sit and think like, man, we should have accounted for him more. So that's my pick.
Respected him. I agree.
Growing up, every one of my friends had a Jeremy Shockey jersey. Like when I first,
He was the
when I first
tattoos and
moved,
the hair and all that too.
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
When I first moved to Louisiana, and this was the year that the Colts and Saints played the Super Bowl, they had a jersey day, and obviously I'm like brand new to the place. I don't know how crazy they are about the Saints, so I show up in my Peyton Manning jersey. Like I figured it'd be cool. No, dude. Jeremy Shockey jerseys and Drew Brees jerseys in the whole school. I almost got my ass beat. Like, but they love Jeremy Shockey down here. I mean, you can't believe he was so good, dude.
For sure. And as for mine, I'm going Antonio Gates, man. Antonio Gates.
What?
He's not
I think,
underrated. He's not
How's he
underrated.
underrated?
He's
I
not
think
underrated.
he is. I think he is, man. I just don't think he doesn't get
You
any
picked-
credit for
You
all
picked
those
a for sure Hall of Famer.
You could have picked Marcus Pollard, bro.
Yeah, for real.
You could have picked Dallas Clark.
This dude chose a guy with
No,
We got a
no.
buzzard for lame picks.
No.
Damn.
Even though, yeah, he is a Hall of Famer, but he gets no love. I'm telling you guys,
He gets a lot of love.
As great as he is, he does not get named up there.
Bro,
with
if you-
like all we hear about is like Gronk and Tony Gonzalez and Travis
And then
Kelce.
Antonio Gates.
Already
Like
did
that,
that.
damn.
No, they still named other guys before they even put him in
That's
that
because
realm.
listen.
I think
The only reason you hear Travis Kelce is because he's fresh, he's new, he's the
I mean, he is the man.
decade
though.
thing. He's good, yeah, but he's just a wide receiver and tight end position.
I-
But if you ask
I just
anybody
don't
from
hear-
our generation, someone's going to say Antonio Gates for sure.
I don't hear his name.
Bro, I would put Jason Witten before I put Antonio Gates down.
I would put Jason Witten. He's a Cowboy. He gets more love than
Well,
Antonio
he's
Gates.
more underrated than Antonio Gates, my
No,
guy.
he's not, bro. People
Bro.
named Jason Witten before.
Bro.
I think it's underrated. I don't think he
it's
gets
all
enough
right.
love.
Maybe it's because I'm in the Army and I know a lot of Chargers fans. Maybe, and that just
You got to get
But-
DeMarco around some other people because who are you listening? How are you hearing this? He's like,
Because I don't hear his name. That's what
You
I'm
got to
saying.
get you around some better folks because I know that.
No, I just don't hear his name. I think dude is still underrated. I just don't.
He was the man. He was the man. To
Yeah.
be fair,
I mean, yeah, but he's not underrated.
he's not underrated. Yeah.
Top 5 tight end all time.
First ballot Hall of Fame.
He's on the Mount Rushmore.
Just because where he ranks all the time doesn't mean he gets the love, though.
I mean, I get. I mean, I said Drew Brees, so I can't really I can't fuss at it too much.
Yeah.
Fair
All right,
enough.
what position's next?
That's my guy. So were we going any other positions outside of DB?
Not only got
Yeah.
time for DB. I'm sorry.
For sure.
We'll do
for sure.
we'll do
go
DB and then we can do linebacker, D tackle, and edge if you guys want after James leaves.
All right, Zach, who you going with at defensive back?
I have Raheem Mathis from the Jaguars back in like 2002. I mean, that dude was locked down, like shuts you out. Plus, he's from a HBCU, which it's cool, small school. First team All Pro 2006. Guy only had a one-time Pro Bowl. 2006 was his only Pro Bowl, and he still leads the Jaguars in career interceptions, career INT yards, and career defensive touchdowns. So Raheem Mathis is my most underrated DB.
He's a beast.
Trev, who you got?
I went for the. I know I love my Louisiana guys, but this guy actually changed the game. Peanut Tillman, man, with that peanut punch, like
High school alumni.
He was a threat, dude. Like nobody could touch. No teams were scared to play this guy. You know, he's always forcing turnovers, and he was good in coverage too. I mean, I just love watching him play. I loved his highlights and everything. So yeah, Charles Tillman, even though he played for the Bears, that's my guy.
All right, Damon, who you got?
Easy for me. You want to talk about a gentleman that's career was ruined by social media because of one clip on a show? D'Angelo Hall, absolute monster of a corner, in my opinion. I think he had like the most interceptions in a single season, if I'm not mistaken. NFL record.
I think so.
He had 4 in one game, and all of them came in the first half
Against the Bears.
against the Bears. Jay Cutler. And if it wasn't for if it wasn't for him talking to DeAndre Hopkins and getting absolutely embarrassed on Hard Knocks, I think that he would be talked about in a much different way. So I'm gonna go D'Angelo Hall here.
I'll never forget that video.
He did get his ankles taken.
He literally got his ankles broken.
I mean, god
It
damn.
was bad. It was
D-Hop
bad.
took his
Ice
soul.
up, son.
D-Hop took
Hey,
his soul.
thank you, Brendan, for somebody agreeing with me here. But Matt, who you got, man?
Underrated.
I got
Who you got,
Asante
Matt?
Samuel.
Oh yeah.
Asante Samuel, one guy who's not in the Hall of Fame that needs to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but what about Nnamdi Asamoah? Same guy.
No, what, man?
Well, if I could pronounce it, I would
Can't even
agree.
say that.
Same guy.
No, not at all.
No.
Bro, they're the same corner.
When he
No,
Nami
not-
didn't have the consistency
what?
though.
No, Zach, no.
Fair enough.
All right, James, who you got?
I went outside of cornerback, so we had it as defensive back. I'll say Rodney Harrison.
Nice.
I think that he was pretty underrated. I know he got a lot of love during the era that they were in because they won so much with the Patriots, but he was really, really good and a really physical dude, and someone that, again, kind of defined that defense. We talk so much about Tom Brady and what he was able to accomplish, but, I mean, his defenses were always good. So
Yes,
he
they
could
were.
make mistakes in these
Yep.
big games, and Rodney Harrison was part of the reason why they were able to usually overcome those mistakes and still win the biggest games because their defense was usually lights out, and he was a big part of that. And I'll never forget, of all the plays he's made, he couldn't make the one on David Tyree with the craziest catch ever.
Couldn't get that ball off his helmet.
Yeah, and that's still like stuck in my brain. But yeah, that would be my pick, Rodney Harrison.
Hey, before DeMarco picks his, because I think I know who he's going to pick.
Mind reader.
It's the reason I didn't pick him. Go ahead, DeMarco.
Attention.
So,
And if he doesn't, I'm going to cry because then I'm going to have to bring his name up. But go ahead.
yeah, no. So the funny thing is that I actually was split because I didn't know who I was going to put at cornerback or DB or where we were going to go with it. But it's funny that Matt sat there and said Asante Samuel because that's who I was going to say. But since he did say Asante Samuel, I'm going to go our guy, the hitman, Bob Sanders. One of the very few safeties who did win Defensive Player of the Year. It was just an absolute animal.
Wrecking ball.
And when you hear great safeties, you never
My
hear
favorite
his
player
name
of all
unless it's
time.
unless it's coming from somebody who's affiliated with the Colts or know a bit about him. But I got Bob, the hitman Sanders, and if he wasn't injury plagued, oh my god!
I was trying to go this whole show without picking a Colt. That's why I wasn't going to say Bob Sanders. So I am going to give an honorable mention because this is who I thought you were going to say because we just talked about him, is Eric Berry.
Yeah.
Eric Berry.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. That's a good pick. I forgot about him. Yeah,
Eric Berry, the man who had cancer for a season, came back, won Comeback Player of the Year, and dominated.
What a guy.
I love that man.
That against dude that beat cancer. Like, that's real. And then, like you said, he came back and he was still really good.
Yeah. Yep. So
my honorable mention will be Cam Chancellor, by the way.
Oh, you took my second pick.
Yeah. Can't go wrong there either.
I think Cam got a lot of love for those Seattle days.
Yeah.
I remember.
But I feel like the further we get removed from that,
they just remember Sherman.
Get brought up, man. Like, but
See, that's a lot of these players, though. I remember, like, I lived in Sacramento.
He did get love.
I lived in Sacramento at the time that Seattle was on their little run that they were on for that 4 or 5 years. And I can tell you right now, there ain't nobody from Seattle that was there in Sacramento. But there was more Seattle jerseys than you can count around there. It was just, I think they got a ton of love. I mean, obviously with the time that passed, but yeah, I think Cam.
Brandon Browner, they had a squad, bro. The Legion of Women used to be so crazy.
And they would just cycle that right corner.
Hey, I will say this: Richard Sherman or T.Y. Hilton, he exposed
Torched them.
defense.
Most yards put on him.
I remember watching that game.
And there were underrated conversation as well.
I was stationed in Hawaii when that game happened, and because I was a specialist, one of my sergeants was a Seahawks fan, and he lived behind me. And I remember when Ty just burnt right past Sherman on that corner route and just was gone. Dude, I was talking so much shit yelling out my back door, bro. How you like that?
Crazy. Yeah. About to get written up for insubordination, man.
Yeah, pretty much.
For sure. So that's some of our list there. We know James has to get out of here. We appreciate you for coming through. Definitely want to have you on again if you will at some point. I know you're going to be pretty busy with the season coming up, but really appreciate you coming on and doing this with us tonight. Everybody, James Boyd, new writer for the Colts.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on. We'll stay in contact. Just reach out and we'll set something up down the line. You all take it easy.
You too,
Awesome.
man.
Appreciate
you,
you.
bro. Appreciate you.
All my answers were the best answers, by the way.
Absolutely.
Hey, maybe for a project guy, I don't know.
Oh, that's a good shot. I appreciate that. I like the answers. But you all take it easy, man.
Take
All
it
right,
easy,
man.
Jay.
Appreciate you.
What a guy, man. That's awesome.
Good dude. Great get, DeMarco. Great get.
Yeah, definitely. That was good. That was good.
Yeah, man.
Hey,
I saw
and
you.
everyone watching and commenting too, y'all make sure y'all go and read up on that guy. Read his
And follow
his
him.
articles.
Follow his plugs. Please do.
Yeah, I think it was at Romeoville kid, Romeoville boy. But yeah, man, he's the man.
Yeah,
Down to
I
earth.
don't necessarily follow The Athletic, mainly because you got to subscribe to it to be able to
I'm
follow it.
cheap.
Oh, no, I don't follow The Athletic at all. I just follow his page.
I follow him.
Yeah.
Yep. Specifically him. I follow their Twitter and stuff, but I don't actually pay for their app. So, but I do follow him. That's why I was asking questions of maybe because I saw his headlines and I was like, okay.
There we go.
But yeah, what's next? What position is next?
We can work down to linebacker, DT, and then defensive end.
So
last.
I'd like to go backwards a little bit and just start at defensive end. If you guys are cool.
Okay, that's fine.
Work our way up to the
Defensive end.
defensive end. So Zach, you want to take off from there?
Yeah. I went with Elvis Dumervil because the dude is 5'11" and has 105.5 career sacks at 5'11". Like,
One for the little guys.
dude, that's nuts.
Nice.
So played
Yeah,
12
that's
years
good.
in the league, and yeah, pretty impressive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He was a beast. He was an absolute beast.
I was a little split. I have two, but I feel like we've been avoiding the hometown cooking, so I'm a hometown cook a little bit, and I'm gonna say Robert Mathis because I mean we all know we saw him every year, Dude was a dominant force off the edge, but I feel like he does not get any respect at all when it comes to the all-time conversation, the best of the generation, anything. Like, he doesn't even get brought up. And we have to remember, I want to say like 2015, he was like the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year. He had like, I don't remember how many sacks now, but like he was lighting the league on fire. And it seems like the national media and like the national fan base as a whole has kind of forgotten that how dominant this guy was because he was on the other end of Dwight Freeney. So yeah, Robert Mathis is my pick. Doesn't get near enough love for how dominant.
I believe he ended up getting hurt like the final like game or two, and
which
that's
cost
why,
him.
and they were saving him for the playoffs, so they didn't want him coming back, and that's why he didn't end up getting it that year. And the Colts weren't that good that year. All right, Damon, who you got?
I got a hybrid, right? I think he played a little bit of both DN and linebacker, but I'm gonna count him here as a DN. Talk about NFL Defensive Player of the Year, 4-time All-Pro, Jason Taylor.
Nice.
Absolute monster.
Very underrated. Very
underrated. Played for horrible Dolphins teams in the early 2000s. So I wanted to include him in my list certainly here. Legend, now at the University of Miami as well. So shout out to him.
For sure. And since Matt is busy real quick, I'm going to jump in here. And just like Trev went, I'm also going to go hometown. I'm going to go opposite side. I'm going to say Dwight Freeney. Just like Robert Mathis was one of the very underrated of all time. And when you sit here and if you turn on any NFL Network, Sports Center, or anything like that, and they talk about great pass rushers or great defensive ends of the past, you just don't hear Robert Mathis and Dwight Freeney's name at all. And I mean, Dwight Freeney, for me, it was one of the other reasons opposite of Peyton Manning that just made me fall in love with defensive ends is that spin move. His patented spin move was just unbelievable. It was one of the craziest things I watched as a kid to see a guy that big just absolutely just spin past guys. And it was one of the opposite reasons really made me love football.
It's crazy too because we had that perfect combination of like speed and agility on one side and then just pure raw strength and just dominating dudes on the other. Like the perfect combo. And you would think like media would eat that up and just people would love to. I mean, we love to watch it, but for sure,
all they wanted to talk about was Peyton.
These guys do not get brought up. And I mean, I agree. I don't get it. Like there's not a ton of players beyond quarterback that or wide receiver that we can sit and say the Colts deserve to be in the all-time conversation, but those edges do, and they don't get mentioned at all.
Oh, so y'all brought up my guy, huh?
We took both of them.
That's off rip. Yeah,
we took both.
We got both though.
All right, well I'm gonna be lame and I'm sticking with it. I'm going Dwight Freeney.
Yeah.
I think Robert Mathis gets more love than Dwight Freeney, but I'm definitely going Dwight Freeney.
Recency bias. I agree.
Also, I'm about to sue NFL Network.
But I think Robert Mathis was the better pass rusher out of the two.
He is. But
Freeney had one move.
Well, I think
like-
Freeney was the better pure pass rusher. But I think the fact that Robert Mathis had that patented strip sack is what kind of pushed
more
him
impactful,
over because Robert Mathis is tied for 1, and Freeney is at like 3 or 4 or something like that.
I just look at it like Mathis was a more complete player in my opinion.
Yeah, more complete. Yeah, absolutely. But you said pass rusher.
Well, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I'm gonna sue NFL Network because they keep showing us losing to the Vikings, and it's really good.
Can't get enough of it.
Next
but
position.
Zach, who are you going with at defensive tackle?
Y'all remember big old Marcus Stroud
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
from the Jaguars?
Way back in the day.
Yeah, that's who I picked. Marcus Stroud played right next to John Henderson, I think.
He's so underrated. I don't know who that is.
Well, he had in
And it's hard with
2002.
these tackles.
In 2002, he had 6.5 sacks from a 3 technique. So
There you go.
that's pretty impressive. Second team All Pro in 2003, and he was a 3-time Pro Bowler.
Not bad.
So I went with. I don't actually know if he's under. I don't know like what kind of love or respect because I feel like we rarely even talk about D tackles other than Aaron Donald these days. But I went Haloti Ngata from the Ravens because he was Nata because he was an absolute force. I mean, dude was in the Pro Bowl or All Pro team like damn near every year. And when you were playing the Ravens, you just couldn't go up the middle because he's gonna rip your head off. Like he was an absolute monster. And then for an honorable mention, I threw in our guy, even though he's still playing right now, recency bias. But I do think Buckner fits this criteria too, because I think he's the second or third best D tackle in the league, and he doesn't get talked about at all.
Totally fair. Totally fair. Damon, who you got at D tackle?
I got to throw a Steeler in there because we haven't been showing the Steelers a lot of love tonight, and I think they got a lot of underrated players from this era.
Casey Hampton.
I was just about to say the reason that the Steelers and the Cowboys aren't in there is because they get so much love. But go ahead.
Yeah, they're the most highest
But
national
Casey-
team, but that's still a good one, I think.
Casey
yeah.
Hampton, if you played Madden and you try to run the ball up the middle,
Couldn't.
you couldn't. I
It's
mean,
not allowed.
it's pretty much a vacuum in the middle of the field.
There's just a
Miserable.
wall there.
Yeah. You could.
Super Bowl champion. What? I think he won two.
Yeah,
two
he won
Super
two.
Bowls. He was in there in that last one they run against the Cardinals. But big shout out to him. Run stopper and a great pass rusher.
I'm going a guy that he is in the Hall of Fame. All right, so I'm doing
Cortez Kennedy.
No, I'm kind of pulling a DeMarco and a Trev here, and I'm going a guy who should be easy, but this generation doesn't talk about. Warren Sapp.
Oh yeah.
So I thought about him.
He
I
could be
thought
the
about
greatest
him
of
as
all time.
well. Yeah, that's the reason why I didn't put Sapp on there. But
He's not talked about
defensive
ever
anymore.
anymore.
Defensive tackles in general don't get talked a lot, so I feel like any of them are up for grabs.
He's in the Hall of Fame, but I bet you if you go and ask any generation or anybody right now that watches football, they're not going to talk about Warren Sapp.
I think he made the number 99 popular though.
I don't know. I'd say Gretzky did that, bro.
I haven't heard
In
Warren
football.
Sapp. I just haven't heard Warren Sapp's name in probably 15 years until we talked about doing this.
I was going to say I don't think you hear his name until somebody says it.
Yeah.
Once
Right.
Everyone's
But-
like, oh, yeah.
but everybody-
once somebody
but-
says his name,
but
then you're like, oh yeah.
But I'm
Yeah.
going to say this is because people talk about Aaron Donald so much. I would still take Warren Sapp over Aaron Donald.
Me too.
That's,
I think
that's
I think Warren Sapp was like the what's his name? God damn it, Brian Dawkins of D tackles.
Yeah,
That
that's a good
that
one.
was Warren Sapp. That was Warren Sapp.
Psycho.
I love Sapp. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that's what he was.
Yeah.
bro. I'm telling you.
Because he was another guy that if you used him on Madden, nobody was running up the middle on you.
I
Same
wanted
Albert
him
Ainsworth.
to fight Mike Turner, the Packers coach or whatever it was back in like
Yeah.
when he
Yeah.
laid out when Sapp laid out. Well, I think it was a tackle or whatever it was. I don't remember. I just was hoping Sapp and the coach would fight, and nothing ever happened of it. So
Yeah, so I'm also kind of in that same realm as Matt with this defensive tackle that I have, but I'm getting he probably doesn't get as much love as any of these D tackles. But mine is Vince Wilfork. Vince Wilfork of the Patriots. I absolutely hated playing against this guy. Just like David said with his D tackle, this dude was just a vacuum in the middle of the field. And if you thought you were running the ball against this, he literally would take up three. Your center and your two guards almost every single play. I think Vince Wilfork was just massively underrated and doesn't get that national attention, even though he did win some Super Bowls and whatnot. But I just think Vince Wilfork was majorly underrated.
One of the biggest fucking dudes I've ever seen.
I
play
think he
football.
might be the most recognizable
Yeah.
defensive tackle of all time, though.
when it comes to
See,
run stopping,
Because
absolutely.
because the one strap overall.
The
You
overall and
see
everything.
him, you know what I mean? You know it's him, and he's his personality. You know, he's eccentric on the field. So
Yeah, that was who I had though. But Zach, who are you going with at linebacker?
The
Linebacker, guys. One
Right.
linebacker.
the forgotten Bear linebacker that no one gives any love to, and it makes me mad. They talk about Urlacher, but what about
I
my
already know you're
guy,
going.
Lance Briggs?
Lance
man?
Briggs. I already knew you were going.
Like-
Beast.
Probably should be in the Hall of Fame. 3-time All-Pro from 05, 06, 09, 7-time Pro Bowler, and first-team All-Pro in 2005. Like, the dude was just a stud, but because he played next to arguably maybe the second greatest middle linebacker in our era, besides Ray Lewis and Brian Urlacher, I mean, he gets often forgot about. Lance Briggs is my guy.
All right, Trev, who you got?
Yeah, man. I feel like he's probably a popular pick. I think all of you at least looked over him, but I got to go London Fletcher because he was step for step with Ray Lewis their whole careers, but he never gets like mentioned or respected in that same breath. I mean, maybe he wasn't as much of a character or anything, and he didn't play in as many of the big games. But man, like London Fletcher was all over the field. you couldn't watch a game without seeing London Fletcher change that game. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was literally one of the best to play the position, but unfortunately, he just never really got that respect that I feel like he deserved for sure.
All right. Damon, who you got?
I'm going to go probably one of the all-time leaders in all stats. I guess forget about Takeo Spikes.
Takeo Spikes. I
6'2",
definitely thought about him.
a beast among men. 6'3", 250 pounds of muscle. Would absolutely take your soul over the middle of the field. Great linebacker. My pick.
Yeah, I also thought about him as well. He was a maniac for the Giants in the middle of that field for them. Matt, who you got?
Linebacker's tough, man, because a lot of the great linebackers that make impact are in the Hall of Fame. So it's hard to say that these guys are typically underrated if they were actually as good at the position as they were. So for me, it was tough. And plus, it was a position I played. So I watched a lot of linebackers growing up. And I'll have to say, because a lot of the ones I wanted to say was like Derek Thomas, but he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not going to pick another guy in the Hall of Fame. I already did that once with Warren Sapp. So I'm going to actually go Terrell Suggs. I think is the one who's very highly underrated. I mean, and he was overshadowed because, you know, they had guys like Ed Reed and Ray Lewis on that team. But Terrell Suggs was a beast, man.
Yeah. And I feel like he played longer too, or maybe it's just because he played after they retired, but he was so consistent for so many years too.
Yeah, he was, man.
For sure.
Yeah, I want to go honorable mention too, still playing, does not get talked about in the modern rankings of linebackers. Demario Davis in New Orleans, dude. He's one of the best off-ball linebackers.
Louisiana guy.
Look, I'm sorry, but watch the guy play. Watch the guy play.
Patrick Willis.
Trent needs to stitch like a
Muted.
Patrick Willis.
You don't like the truth. You don't like the truth.
Luke Kuechly.
Hey, I would have went Leonard if he was underrated, but we don't talk about him right.
I'll wait for like 10 years and then we can put DeMario.
I didn't put Luke Kuechly on this list, right? Because I heard Zach just say his name. The reason I didn't say his name was because of the fact that I just watched a video of him the other day that was posted on social media.
I think he's
calling him as the best Carolina Panthers linebacker of all time.
You can't do that. That's Sam Mills.
Right, but it was put there, and that's why I didn't put Luke Kuechly in my linebacker spot.
For sure.
Hey, and just a weird note. Damon looks like he put the black and white effect on himself.
It's the lighting.
Weird filter going on.
It's the lighting in the room.
All right, go ahead. Sorry, DeMarco.
All good. Yeah, I'm also with Trev on this one. I had London Fletcher, man. I think London Fletcher is one of those guys where he played in this generation with Ray Lewis and I want to say it was one other guy from the Steelers. The name isn't as big, but I know he got a lot more recognition than London
Furrier? He just died.
Yeah. Did he really?
Yeah, he just passed away like last week. James Furrier.
Oh, shit.
Well, R.I.P. to the guy. I did not know that. That was not my intent to.
Highly underrated, I guess.
Yeah. So
my mind jumped to Ryan Shazier too, who unfortunately couldn't play because of cancer, I believe.
Oh, he would have gone down as like a top 10 in my opinion.
Yeah,
that dude was
so good.
That dude was.
He was so
I mean, he was one of the guys that had instincts, ability, speed, everything you wanted in a linebacker.
So fast.
But I had London Fletcher, man. Just like Trev said, all the stats that you sit here and look at for a player, when you line his up with Ray Lewis,
right there with him.
Was he that damn good? But he's always overshadowed by Washington being poor, being garbage, being everything that they had going on. I think London Fletcher was absolutely.
He was a Bill before then.
Another honorable mention too is James Harrison.
Yeah.
Hybrid.
What about Patrick Willis?
I tried to
Patrick
stay
Willis,
away
yep.
from the linebackers that were / defensive ends, which is
Navarro Bowman.
The typical
Yeah, the guys that played defensive end just because of the scheme they were in. But to be fair, James Harrison's so fucking big, he had no business playing in a linebacker position.
Exactly. So that's why I hate when people do the linebacker / defensive end, because it's like
it's not the same.
It's not the same. Typically not gonna put that guy in a typical like 4-3 linebacker type role. So that's why I hate when they put the position out
right.
there.
Right. Like Robert Mathis. He's not a linebacker.
Exactly.
He's a
not
defensive
linebacker.
end.
Right.
Exactly.
He
So,
only played
feel
that
like
position for a few
if your
years.
primary
under-
draw, yeah, if your primary role is to rush the passer, I'm not going to call you.
Yeah, you're an edge. Yeah.
Nathan saying here something about Richardson not getting signed. I'm not too worried about it.
we got till 20.
I wouldn't say each day. I would say each week. We got until like the 21st, I believe, when we start camp. So I would say,
It'll be fine,
just-
dude. He's gonna play for
Just,
the Colts.
just stay relaxed. We'll be all right. There's no way we're not gonna sign our number 4 overall.
Yeah.
A lot of that
Hey,
stuff
while
over
we're
there.
while we're still in this underrated player conversation,
Mhm.
let's go another. I guess he would be considered a running back, but he's not. He was a fullback. That's never talked about. Mike Olstott.
I knew you bring him up. That's your kind of football player right there, bro.
He's my favorite.
Bangers.
Yeah,
my
no, man.
favorite
He's.
player.
I don't know if
See-
y'all seen him recently. His CT is so bad he can't even structure a sentence, bro. Like
Yeah,
his
but
head
that-
it's legitimately gone. His
To
head.
me,
Yeah,
to me,
I mean,
he
if
was
you-
the last real fullback to play football.
Well, I don't know.
What about
Juszczyk
Juice?
Is that
I was
dude?
gonna say, what
Kyle-
about Juice?
Kyle Juszczyk is that guy.
Mike
Kyle
Tolbert.
Juszczyk. Kyle
Mike
Juszczyk.
Tolbert?
No,
I don't even know who
Juszczyk.
that is.
No,
For
not
the
Tolbert.
49ers?
I think
Yeah.
Tolbert is just an overgrown running back, but I
Oh,
think
come on now. That's what All-Star
Juszczyk
was.
is legit fullback.
He's legit,
Juszczyk.
man.
That dude in Baltimore.
He's not an
way
all-star.
better than Juszczyk. Juszczyk
No,
is-
I'm not saying that, but for the modern game, he still plays. And I think they're one of the few teams that still
He
rolls
still,
out a
he still
fullback.
runs the ball,
And, yeah.
up the middle and everything, and he'll run through your face.
Yeah,
But yeah, the only reason I didn't think of him, Matt, is because I got a cousin who's a big time 49ers fan, and he always loved all stuff.
I did this list. I did this list twice. I was telling DeMarco earlier this week how in depth I took this, and I'm truly amazed that no one picked David Garrard
I don't know,
because
man.
like how underrated he was. I'm also amazed.
My issue, I don't think Gerard was underrated.
Yeah, but Matt took Brunell, who was more underrated than Gerard.
I mean, yeah, which is amazed, but I'm still amazed no one took.
I'm pretty sure Gerard stole fucking Brunel's job
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Leftwich. It was
at the
Leftwich.
end. Oh yeah, Leftwich. That's right.
Because
Leftwich
Burnell
did it.
got traded to St. Louis.
Yeah.
If I remember right.
after
Yeah.
Leftwich took the starting role from Brunel. Yeah.
And then running back wise, no one picked like Michael Turner
Fred Jackson.
or Fred Jackson from Buffalo.
He was my number
Well,
two.
see, I would have
I
thought of Fred Jackson, but I really don't. I mean, I think Michael Turner. I'm going to say he's underrated, but I just don't think he's in that
No.
upper echelon
He's
of
not.
guys. That
So would
was
you put
underrated.
Darren Sproles? Would you put Darren Sproles in that underrated category?
No, because Darren Sproles got a lot of love, bro.
Yeah.
I almost put
I'm the reason. I mean, Darren Sproles is the reason I love football as a person who thought I could play still.
Hey,
When
Darren
I
Sproles.
figured out basketball, I wasn't going to be tall enough. Darren Sproles was my last hope.
So Darren Sproles, Darren Sproles to me is a better Naheem Hines. That's
Oh,
who
100%.
Darren Sproles is.
Yeah,
He was
love
just that
Darren.
guy that he had to be in open field to be able to do his work. He
Right.
wasn't. He
He's
wasn't
not going through
creating
anybody.
open field. Yeah, no.
I was going to be corny and not pick a running back position and just go with the Denver offensive line from like 2000 to like 2006 when it
Tatum
didn't
Bell.
matter. When it didn't matter who they had at running back, Clinton Portis, Mike
Yeah.
Anderson, Tatum Bell. I was going to pick those guys because it was literally plug and play the entire
Hey,
entire time. with the
Clinton
Chiefs system.
Portis played in Washington, didn't he?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
started out in
he was
Denver.
one of the guys. He was
That's-
one of the
that's
guys that
another guy.
I chose him for my fantasy team.
That's
He got
another guy.
traded from Champ.
That's another guy that should have been
Yeah.
on the underrated.
I just thought Freddie T was more underrated than him.
He got
Yeah.
traded for Champ Bailey. That's why I didn't put him on the list because I was like, oh, he got traded for Champ
mean,
Bailey.
yeah.
I was not underrated.
another
It's
another
okay.
another good name is Larry Davis.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
If anybody remembers that guy,
I had
I'm surprised
Justin
no one
Tuck.
said. I'm surprised no one said Ray Rice.
That's
That's
his
no-
controversial.
Nah, he be knocking out women, bro. He can't be.
Oh, what? Listen.
Easy now.
Listen. I get it. Everybody's like, oh, he did this. Ray Lewis is still ranked as like the second best linebacker in all of sports. That man killed 3 people and got away.
But none
with
of us named Ray Lewis.
because he's not underrated. Because
Yeah,
he's
you
not
can't say he's
underrated.
underrated.
Marvin Harrison did too.
But what I'm saying is like I'm not talking about personal life. I don't care what they do in their personal. I mean, I do, but I don't. When I'm talking player, I'm talking player. I don't care what you do on the outside.
Yeah.
I don't. So when I'm talking like an underrated running back, I could go Ray Rice.
But he
The man,
Rice
the
got
man is
love
an
until he punched
out.
the girl in the face.
hold on. The man is an underrated boxer too. We all saw that.
Oh,
See,
Here's
that's why
what-
that's why he not on
Anyway.
this list because he got love until he punched her in the
Look at
face.
David.
and his love was gone.
Damon's like, you Matt, you're gonna get me fired.
Ray Rice to me just falls in that that one in like his impact was so short, obviously because off the field issues, but like he kind of goes in that Priest Holmes, Larry Johnson
Michael
bucket for me.
Turner.
But just because it was only like a 3 or 4 year body of work where you really saw him pop off. Hell, you could even throw Jamal Lewis in there too, right?
Dude, no one said Jamal Charles. What is wrong with you folks?
3 years, dude. That's
You
all
didn't
he
name
did.
him either, so
Okay,
you
but
right there
again,
with the
3
I
years.
thought for sure one of y'all would because how much love y'all been showing him.
No,
Okay,
Jamal
well,
Charles,
fucking
Jamal-
underrated,
We
though.
literally just talked about how great Jamal Charles was in the chat no more than like 5 days ago. And I
DeMarco
thought
Murray.
for
I don't feel like
sure-
he's underrated though.
I
Jamal
thought
Charles-
Yeah,
for
but,
sure
yeah,
someone
but
put him
Jamal
on the
Charles, Jamal Charles for his time wasn't underrated though.
he gets his
Fred
flowers
Taylor
though.
was
Yeah,
good.
I'm trying to think of guys that like don't get the respect, man. Don't get the love they
Oh, for
deserve.
sure.
You said Drew
sure.
Brees.
Yeah, because he doesn't. In the
He got
all-time
all the
conversation, he
love.
doesn't.
He's
He's
legitimately regarded.
First
No.
ballot Hall of Famer. Yes, he is.
Yeah, first ballot Hall of Fame. But I'm saying, and that's why I framed it like I did, right?
Because
I
he
don't
didn't-
know if he belongs here, but in the all-time conversation, he's not respected the same as Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, when he's arguably better than one of them.
My whole lifetime, he was put on the same tier as all those guys you just named.
He was for me too.
And
Drew Brees.
If
Drew
you look
Brees,
at
Tom
me
Brady,
now,
Peyton Manning.
Once he
Those
left,
look at everyone's
once he
Mount
left
Rushmore. He's
San
not on it.
Diego, once he left, yeah, you're talking about fans. And,
Yeah.
and Mount Rushmore is like four
We're talking about
people.
perception, like how people are
We're talking
rated.
about
I
four
mean, how else are
people.
you supposed to look at it?
True.
I'm
This
I'm
was an
just
opinion
saying-
piece.
Yeah, it is. I'm just saying that Drew Brees
That-
is
and-
the first
but
time
again-
Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I get it. That's why I framed it like I did, where I can't say he's underrated because obviously, like, yeah, he's one of the GOATs, but that's why I said in the all-time conversation, the GOAT conversation, he's underrated because he deserves to be talked about in the conversation. That's all I
respect
was
it.
putting him in there.
I respect it.
You guys remember Lee Evans? You think he was
Come on
underrated?
now.
No.
Buffalo Bills receiver?
Yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah.
I remember him. What about Delta O'Neal, the corner for the Bengals? Multiple times.
Absolutely.
Pro
I
Bowler.
have
Hold on, let's,
I have TJ Husmanzada as well.
Let's finish
The
our
best
list
name
real
in
quick.
football.
Zach, who's your most underrated corner?
Wait, we were doing DBs. I didn't know we were doing corner too.
No, I thought we were counting DBs as safeties.
I already went
Oh,
corner.
No, I named a corner.
Yeah.
I know,
I-
so now you got to go safety. I got y'all. Already got it.
Well, I already
working.
said
Okay.
mine, Eric Berry.
You want me to go safety? See, I'd have to go
No,
safety,
corner.
safety. Oh, corner.
Corner,
Well, I
Zach.
went Raheem Mathis for.
Did he play safety? I
he
thought
played
was safety
corner.
for the Jacks.
Played
I thought he was
corner.
safety. Okay.
You
We got
said
a safety.
Jet safety. Remember Kerry Rhodes back in the day for the Jets, bro?
Yeah, I
Money.
remember Kerry Rhodes.
Dog. There you go. Underrated. Never got no love until he played with that 1 year with Ed Reed, and Ed Reed was terrible. And people realized, like he carried the safety group. Yeah, Kerry Rhodes.
All right, Trev, who you got at safety?
Yeah, y'all said Eric Berry earlier. He was one of my picks, but I'll go the other Eric with Eric Weddle. I think he was
Ooh.
really good for years, man.
Ooh. Yeah.
He came back for that Rams Super Bowl, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yes, he
He
did.
finally won
He
that one.
broke
That
his
was-
shoulder.
that
I
was
wanna-
really cool.
It's like-
I'll say
quarter.
this: when it comes to Weddle, a lot of people at that time it was either Weddle or Honey Badger, and I would always
Yeah.
lean more towards Weddle over Honey Badger. That's just
Yeah.
me, and maybe it's because he's. I'm not gonna say that, but Weddle
Not
yeah.
talked about. Yeah,
Yeah, I agree 100%. I'm with you on that one. Weddle's a good one.
he was a dog.
All right,
For
Damon,
me-
who you got at safety?
Safety. Dante Whitner.
Ooh,
Absolute
Hittner.
game
Yeah.
record. Will meet you over the middle, and it did cost him his career, and he did legally change his name to Dante Hittner. So I gotta go Dante.
That's so
Hittner.
dope. Dude, I also I wanted to bring it up, but James was leaving, so I didn't want to interrupt. But honorable mention and a little bit of home cooking at corner. Vontae Davis was really good for a couple years there, man.
Yeah,
I
he
love Vontae
he
Davis.
so did I. He messed himself up
Yeah.
by retiring at halftime.
Yeah,
Missed
he
your
ruined
halftime.
his legacy. But like to me, as a Colts
yes,
fan, I still love the
agreed.
guy. He was so
An-
good. He's never
another
gonna get
one,
respect.
another one from Indy is Darius Butler.
Yeah, yeah.
All
One of the
time?
smartest guys.
You really think, like, all-time underrated?
He was one of his instincts. I mean, his stats don't look like it because he played on the inside. He wasn't an outside corner. So you got to remember, nickels don't get a lot of numbers compared to, like, you look at guys like
Right.
Richard Sherman on the outside. So,
For
like,
honorable mention is fair though.
but Darius Butler was a dude who was like one away from breaking the all-time record for 6 picks in a career.
That's nuts.
Yeah, the dude was like right there on it. Like, I remember tweeting him in like 2013 or 2014 saying, "Hey man, one more and you break the record. Are you going to get it this weekend?" And he retweeted it. But yeah, and he's smart. If you guys follow him now,
Everything DB.
I mean, smart.
Hey,
Yeah.
what about Antoine Bethea? Y'all rank
Hold on,
him?
Yeah.
hold on, man. God, shut up.
Yeah, Matt didn't. Matt
Matt,
had.
what are you thinking?
No,
Yeah,
fair
well, he
enough.
already said Eric Berry, and since that was already in there, he can go ahead with another.
Yeah, Antoine Bethea. Thank you.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right.
I was getting there. I was gonna say it. I was just, we were having fun conversations, steered off in direction. But
He had
yeah,
a long career. Too,
Antoine Bethea. And the thing is on when you watch this film, he doesn't jump off the page as like one of the most athletic safeties to play the game, like one of the hardest hitters or one of the sideline to sideline. But he was probably one of the. If I'm going to make a comparison in position, right, one of the smartest at his position, it'd be like a Richard Sherman at safety. Like he could read an offense and know where the ball was going.
He was never out of position.
Right. Perfect way to place it, man. That dude was just where he needed to be.
I mean, he was so
And then,
smart. Never out of position. Go ahead, DeMarco.
Yeah, I was just gonna say for mines, since I did go our guy Hitman at safety, and Sante Samuel was already in there at corner. I'm gonna go a different route at corner. I'm gonna say Rondé Barber for the Tampa Bay Bucks. I think he was
Monster.
very
So,
underrated cornerback.
I will say this for a decade. For a decade of when I was growing up, he wasn't underrated. Right now, yeah, probably. I would say that right now he's looked at as like probably a bottom tier. But when I was growing up, that was a fearful man.
Yeah, no, it was the same for me. I think the guy. I mean, obviously, when they're playing, you're gonna get a lot more love. But I just
Speaking
think he
of,
was one of those guys that didn't get a lot of love.
Speaking of, another honorable mention for running back is his brother, Tiki.
Tiki.
Tiki was another dude. Who
That was one of my
his
my
career.
favorite running backs to use on Madden between 0
Yeah.
and 10. That was one of my favorites there too.
One of the best football names too. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I will say James had the best running back pick, I think, and Sean Alexander. I remember using him in 2K5.
Yeah,
No one was stopping you.
I didn't even think of Sean, but when he said him, I was like, oh, that's
Right,
number
yeah.
one. That's
With
easily number
Matt
one.
Hasselback at quarterback.
That's easily number one. I
We
mean,
want the ball and we're gonna score.
if you could take Matt Hasselback to a goddamn Super Bowl, you deserve a lot of credit.
Facts.
Speaking of Matt Hasselback, I'm surprised Damon didn't have his boy Will Harris on there.
Will Harris.
Hey,
Yeah.
what about Entrell Roll?
Yes.
Or Troy Vincent.
Another
Yeah.
one.
Or Troy Vincent.
Yeah, I thought of Troy Vincent too, but he retired in like 2004.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to pick guys that went a little longer.
There
in the chain.
are a lot of guys in the NFC East that don't get mentioned.
Troy Vincent,
but-
one of them.
Yeah, and then you got to look at Washington, bro. There's a
Lito
lot of
Shepherd.
names. Yeah, there's
Lito
a lot
Shepherd.
of names in Washington.
God.
They're
that
always
no
held
one
back
talked
by like
about.
bad quarterback play.
Yeah,
know he-
Curtis
I know he
Painter's
passed.
one of them. I'm sorry, bro. But
RIP.
when Curtis Painter played in Washington, that dude was a monster.
Who?
Not Painter.
Painter?
The running back, Porter.
Clinton
That's
Portis.
what I was like, where are you going with
Portis.
this? 'Cause I don't
Portis.
know.
Y'all know what I
Yeah.
meant.
He's
The
a 2K
running
back.
back. The running back.
1,000 yards.
The running back in Washington. That dude was like,
100%.
God.
Yeah, that was Jason Campbell, right? Jason Campbell,
Yeah.
Clinton Portis. I think it was that era. Yeah,
Portis.
that was
Mark
really
Brunell.
good.
I don't know why I said Curtis.
Brunell.
Painter, bro.
Mark
I-
Brunell.
It started with
Joe
Mark
Gibbs.
Brunell and ended with Jason Campbell at quarterback.
That's why I liked that Damon said Jason Taylor, because he's the guy that people just don't think of at defense.
So is Zach Thomas underrated for that era? I mean, he's going to go in the Hall of
100%.
Fame.
100%.
So I that was going to be my linebacker pick, but I went away from that because I was like, bro, I can't put a Hall of Famer on here. That's some cheese. So
What
I
about
went with
Demarius
Lance
Thomas?
Prince. I don't think he did know.
Marius Thomas, he was definitely
I'm-
underrated. He was underrated in
I'm
his
with that.
time and after.
To be completely honest, the Thomas brothers were kind of that was a
Brother
package
was a
deal.
tight
that
end,
was-
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you put Sean Taylor on the list? Because I almost put Sean Taylor on the list just because, like,
Yes, I would.
I mean,
yes,
his career was
I would.
short,
I
but
wouldn't.
that's another
wouldn't
Washington
use-
guy that
He's
I
not
just
underrated though. He's not underrated.
I would-
Yeah,
I
he's
would
not
put him on there
underrated.
'cause
Yeah,
he,
valid
he wasn't
point.
underrated because I mean, even to today, you know, I mean,
Still gets his
obviously
love,
because
which
of
he
what
deserved.
happened,
Yeah.
but it's
That's
lot
a
of
valid
love.
point. Valid point.
'Cause
Definitely not underrated.
He was another one of those safeties that people looked at more than they looked at Bob Sanders.
all right. So, my next question, leading into his teammate, would you put Ryan Clark on that list? Because, I mean,
Definitely,
he belongs, in
Definitely
my
I would.
opinion,
Ryan Clark gets no love.
right. You could say he's a top in the 2000s, which this is strictly what this is off of. You could argue he's a top 5 free safety in the league, fourth or fifth. I mean, you have arguably Ed
He's
Reed.
really good. Yeah.
And
You
he
have
was a dog.
He was an
I mean,
undrafted
right.
free agent.
He was a
Undrafted free
straight
agent.
pit. He was a straight pit bull.
right.
Cut
I mean-
from the Saints and then picked up by the Steelers. Yeah, he's a dog.
I mean, I didn't put him on the list, but thinking about it, Ryan Clark probably should have been on that list.
I mean, my dude tried to play football through sickle cell. I mean, like he was sick to his stomach
Yeah.
and tried to get on the field.
Yeah,
I wanna-
remember
I
that
wanna-
year.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask that. I'm gonna ask this, okay? And this may be far fetched and maybe a reach because he's talked about probably a lot more than he should be. Strictly speaking, football, not his psycho craziness off the field. Antonio Brown.
Oh yeah, I think everybody would. I mean,
I don't think he's underrated at
So
all.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I was
But
gonna
that's
say,
where
he's
my
not
question was coming
underrated,
in.
But yeah, I don't think he's
But he's
underrated.
not put on anyone's top lists. Is my thing. Like
I guess that's-
statistically,
yeah.
he's
I
there.
mean, he's. I mean,
Yeah,
I think
statistically,
he's
he's
on
there.
mine. I
He's
think
got-
he's
he's got
mine. I
more.
think if he wasn't an idiot,
Yeah.
in my opinion, I think he was on pace to be the greatest
I'm pretty-
receiver of all time
Facts.
if he wouldn't have been an idiot. So
Facts,
I
'cause I think-
definitely put him on that list.
Facts. I think he's because if you look at him, I think for like 9 years, the dude had over 1,000 yards. It was
Trev.
something crazy.
Yeah,
I'm disappointed.
He's
And then-
You didn't put
and
Marcus
then-
Colston on your list?
Oh no, he's in there. He's in there, but
Bro.
I can't
Colston's
put him
not
over
underrated.
Andre Johnson.
Every
Bro.
Henderson.
I don't think
Marcus
Colston's underrated.
Colston
I don't think he's
is
underrated.
definitely
No,
underrated,
he's
bro.
underrated. I mean, he's
I don't
not
think he
talked
is.
about it at all.
You didn't
I
put
think-
Marcus. I intentionally left him off my list because I thought for sure Trev would be all like Marcus Colston.
I can't put
but
it- Oh my god. No,
Deuce
well, first of
McAllister.
all, I got enough Saints. All right, you guys will never let me hear the end of it. But no, I mean he was a great player, but
Yeah.
and underrated. I can't put him over the guys we had. You know, Andre.
I think
Johnson.
Marcus Colston was one of those guys that, like, you would never think we're gonna kill your team,
and,
Yeah.
then
and
he
he
would go
just
for
come
like
in and
a
destroy teams every week.
He
You
was
just never think of his name. Like, this guy could go out and have 300 yards and 5 touchdowns, and the next week the team is gonna come in and be like, "Oh, we ain't worried about this guy."
yeah.
Like, it was
Why
just
are you not
insane
worried?
how
Yeah.
underrated is Marcus Colston. Like,
He was
how
one of those guys that just put in the work and like developed the chemistry with the quarterback. Like I think that was the key for him. 'Cause
I think he was just like an Demarius Thomas.
Yeah, I don't think he could have been a star anywhere. It had to be with Breeze because of that chemistry he
The
developed
issue,
with him.
the issue with him, I think, is that they got Michael Thomas,
Mm.
and I think
Yeah.
that kind of overshadowed Colston, in my opinion. Because another name out of the Saints that I think is highly underrated is Willie Snead.
Yeah,
What about Reggie Bush?
No, he ain't.
he's not underrated though.
Reggie Bush is
He's probably
Reggie-
over.
no.
Reggie
He's in
Bush
that
was
same tier as Michael Turner with less stats and more overrated than Michael.
That
Turner.
man was
So-
that man was a college running back. He was not meant for the NFL. That boy
was
got
never
proven
great, yeah.
by Philly that he did not. belong
Couple
on
good
the-
highlights, but no,
Yeah,
he-
yeah.
He
in
said
open
by
field.
Philly. Hey, that is my favorite highlight of all
That Lito
time.
Shepherd hit? Yeah.
Yeah,
all time.
bro, that shit was nasty.
Lito Shepherd needs to be on this list just for that hit alone.
Yeah. Hey, what about LeGarrette Blunt
Ooh.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah,
or
yeah,
Le'Veon Bell?
That's
he's like
right
not over
in
the
that-
guys that we had, but I
That's
mean, he
like
didn't-
right in that abyss tier type.
I
player.
don't know if that's a
Brandon
reach.
Jacobs?
I feel like
Brandon
statistically,
Jacobs.
Hold on.
Brandon
Damon,
Jacobs.
go
I think
ahead. Steve
statistically,
Slayton. Hold on,
Matt-
Steve Slayton.
Yeah, Steve.
Hold on. We gotta stop for a second because Steve Slayton was my guy. That dude was my guy in West Virginia. I
That
don't care
was
what
good in
anybody else
college.
says.
But it didn't
Pat-
carry
well,
over in the pro.
and Pat
But
White.
hold on. I played pickup football with this kid because he grew up in Pennsylvania his mom worked with my stepmom. So he actually used to work out with me in the summers when I played football right before I went to high school. And this dude, he was the fastest person I've ever seen in person, man. I will tell you that. Like, this dude was like, his nickname in college was probably the fastest thing I'd ever seen. Like Lightning or whatever. Like, Steve Slayton is the man. And the only reason he didn't succeed in the NFL is because he had to play behind Arian Foster.
I think he was there before, right? I think Steve Slayton
No.
got drafted 07, 08.
No,
Yeah, but Arian Foster
on-
was already there.
Yeah.
Really?
Arian Foster was the starting running back of the
I think
of the
Steve
Houston
Slayton's
Texans
a
when he got
chef
drafted.
now.
Yeah.
He played in the Canadian Football League for a couple
He
years.
did. He did.
Oh, geez.
But I think, back to Matt's point, I think he has a point with LeGarrette Blount, because LeGarrette Blount was an NFL rushing yards leader in like 2010,
For the
11
Bucks.
for the Bucks with Josh Freeman. They made the playoffs. So I don't think he's that off. And then he went on to be like an impact player on Super Bowl teams too. So I think LeGarrette Blount does fall in that category. And he demolished the Colts. Every time we played against him, that man go for 200.
Yeah, but even what's his goddamn name? The dude that
Brandon-
got cut, and I always forget his damn name now. God damn. Dude that ran for 200 yards on his 4 touchdowns and got cut the following Monday. for
James
being
White?
defensive back.
James White.
No.
Oh, was he the Notre Dame back?
It might have been.
Oh, God. What was his name? Zach?
What was this dude's name, bro?
I'm drawing a blank. I don't know.
Oh my
Because there's
God.
like three New England Patriots running backs that did that to us in a 3-year stretch.
I'm telling you, bro, it was the craziest thing ever. And I just thought it was crazy that Jonas Gray.
Jonas Gray, Texas A&M.
Dude just
The
absolutely
most unknown
torched us.
fucking guy in the
Dude
world.
just torched us and then got cut. Like,
Practice
it was the most
squad
insane thing ever. So
Bro,
I didn't really see anything that any running back did against the Colts as a top tier thing.
What it was that everybody for some reason had this no-name player that they used against us. Like Houston,
Yeah.
Kiku fucking Cootie for no apparent
Oh.
reason decides to go for 100+ yards against us and be the reason we lose.
Cecil Shorts in Jacksonville used to do the same crap to us.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Kevin Walter in Houston, that white slot receiver, used to just eat us to pieces.
Pittsburgh, the whole roster. For no
man,
fucking
but
reason.
they always had some practice squad guy.
But
come in
then
and
if
kill
we
us.
ever played the
Facts.
Falcons when we're like if we're a 2-win team, we play the Falcons and they have the Gods roster, we'll still magically win.
For some
We
reason,
literally
not only just
always
win,
beat the
but
Falcons.
we would destroy them.
Like Nicole Jackson had 2 pick sixes against him.
Yeah.
You remember that?
I'm pretty sure Greg Toller had a couple interceptions against that team. Like Matt Ryan threw a couple picks
Except
to
for
that dude.
Julio. Julio torched us his first game in the
And
league.
they lost that game.
I understand.
We
that, but
won that
Julio
game.
had like
I used to
235.
love making fun of Titans fans because they kept sharing that the year they got Julio, and I'm like, bro, first of all, Julio was
We
like
won.
10 years older than that year that you guys are putting out,
And we
secondly,
won.
They lost.
Yeah, we won that game, so I don't
What are
care.
you talking about?
I don't care if a player torches us. If we win, we win. You didn't do enough.
Hey, Trev is hilarious for that. Got a blast, boys. Or Jimmy Neutron.
That's how he did it.
Got a blast, Jimmy Neutron.
Oh man.
Oh, jeez, that cracked me up. But yeah, there's plenty of players that could be on this list that got left off this list. There's just so many names to go through. I mean, I could probably give you like 15 receivers. Just insane. But yeah, I mean, it was an awesome show. Love the topic, Zach. Appreciate you again, James, for coming on and giving your bits and pieces about the Colts and your thoughts on them. And then also everybody for putting their list together. Appreciate everybody that came in the view tonight.
Also, everybody, if you're not tracking, be here on Monday, 9:00 Eastern time. We're gonna have a special guest of Jake Witt out of
Let's go.
Indianapolis Colts, offensive tackle / tight end. I guess you could name him as. I don't know what we're gonna use him as, but he's athletic enough to play both. 7th round pick Jake Witt will be with us on Monday for about 30 minutes, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Absolutely. So please be there. Tune in. Get to know our last draft pick of the 2023 NFL Draft.
Yes, sir. Appreciate everybody coming out. James, appreciate you coming out. Zach, it's always good to see your beautiful face.
You're right. I'm the
Hope to
beauty
have
behind
you.
the show.
He is.
Hope to have you on Monday, beautiful.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. It's this crazy work schedule, bro. It's this crazy work schedule.
It's just 30 minutes, brother.
Solo
if I
layout.
can make it
that
happen.
beautiful
Hey,
face. Hey,
50 greatest right here. No, get my ugly mug off here. Get my ugly mug off here. But yeah, if my crazy work schedule works out, then yeah, I'll be on for at least 30, and then sleep for like a couple hours and get up and do it all over again.
Sure.
All right, everybody. Appreciate y'all coming out, and it's always go Colts.
He is going to drop the throw. Fires deep along the right sideline for Alec Pierce.
He's got it.